Maybe we switch gears a little bit. I'm getting a little nudge from our marketing team to say, let's talk about some integrations. When integration? What if I can throw that to you, Stephen and Kasima, because you guys were closer to the integration process itself. What were you surprised about through the end-to-end process, having Bitfinex as one of the bigger first integrations on the network, right? What part of that process surprised you, and what part of that process was fun? Or none of it was
fun. I think. Yeah. I think both the business development side, which you were very close to, Vanessa, right? So that was fun. That was actually, when it came down to it, very straightforward, right? Which speaks a lot to, I guess, timing, luck, but really product market fit. So, and this was when it was only the bad old days of 100 or 150 gas, right? We hadn't got to 300 yet, but just presenting that idea that congestion is a problem, finality is a problem in terms of whether it's going to take one block or 40 minutes to get into your next block. All of that, when it just clicks and it suddenly makes sense, when your message kind of makes sense to the customer and they're like, oh, fuck yeah, we really should do this. Then it all kind of fell away. Then it was about when and how and what order and who do we need to connect to get it done. So it wasn't really in any way a super hard sell. But again, I think that's a lot about timing and presenting it and framing it in the right way. And the fact that we were live and to everything Kasima just said about, we could be really clear about the trustlessness. It's non-custodial, so they weren't going to, user funds are never at risk by connecting to layer 2. And then the market kind of pushed it towards them. Just, I guess in sort of economics, is that idea of a rational actor, right? So if you could have, like, forget us, just conceptualize, if you could have the same security guarantees as the system you're using today, with no change in your controls or privacy, but it's just faster and cheaper, why would you not use it? And then they're like, yeah, we really should just use it, right? and we're not shilling a token specifically for that. It's like, we're here for ETH and ERC20, right? It's open to all. From the very start, we sort of see ourselves as a utility, as a public good, as a piece of kind of infrastructure that the broader financial systems need. We're not the last mile. We're not the consumer-facing piece. We're the B2B infrastructure piece. So talking to the right customer and giving them the right message, just really worked. And then a piece that I super like from the integration side, because again, when I was in previous in other lives and more technical roles, I'd have run a lot of those. I'd have been the lead engineer or the chief engineer and helping customers get on board. And Kasima, you picked up on this as well, right? So when we went back to the early integrators after they'd completed and asked them how they'd got on, right? Just looking for some of that product feedback, like, how did you find our documentation? How did you find the sample code? How was it in testnet versus your production testing? And they were like, you're the only, and these exchanges, right? Bitfinex specifically, like they're connected to all the chains, right? All the main chains. We know that. Everybody knows that. And they're like, you're the first people that have ever asked us that. Nobody else cared. It was just like, hey, get on our network, and whether it works, whether it's a good experience or a bad one, whether it was good UX or not, whether the documentation was right or not, nobody else seemed to care. So the fact that we asked and the fact that they noticed, I thought, was really significant.
Yeah, I think you just stole my answer, Stephen. I think that was one of the best. We're going to talk about what was fun. Really, I mean, at heart, I think I'll always be a product engineer, and just getting that feedback from Bitfinex was amazing. And I do want to have a shout out to our documentation team, especially Dimitri, who wrote all that stuff, organized all that stuff, Pong, who product manages that stuff, and all the engineers who contributed and supported them. I mean, it's gone such a long way since the beginning of the year, and to hear that not only were we the first ones to ask, but at the end of the day, he was like, you guys are one of the better integrations that we've done. And so that was just just sort of a great confirmation of the work we put in.
Yeah, yeah.
So are we supposed to? Are people nudging us to go through this agenda here? So what does it mean really? Okay.
I think she's got to flip the next one, right? Oh,
yeah, she did. She did do the next one.
Oh, Vicky, you're always a step ahead of me. Not fair.
So what does it mean? I think what's great is that, like, okay, so all this great stuff is happening on Ethereum right now, and it's very exciting, and I do watch it all the time, and it's pretty fun, but it doesn't have enough room to run. And so, like, for us to be able to pull some of that transaction volume off for things that people are for a thing that's pretty well known, which is just value transfer, right? I think that's sort of essential to any kind of financial network. For us to be able to pull that transaction volume off the main chain means that more of this very exciting, very experimental financial DeFi thing to happen. And so I think that is pretty awesome from my perspective. I think that's really cool.
Yeah. I think we always talk about how we want to be kind of the boring, dumb pipe. But people kind of underestimate how important that is, right? Because if you look at, as you said, the basis of any financial services, the first thing you need to be able to do is transfer. You can't do that well. You can't really build anything else on top of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I sort of think about, there are times I think about, like, CDNs, right? And like what an essential role that CDNs play in our, like, global internet infrastructure. And it's like, you don't really hear from them much, and you shouldn't. And you don't really, like, notice them much, and you shouldn't, but they are definitely there, and they're making the whole experience significantly better. And I think that's the kind of thing. That's the kind of role we can play. And I think that not only, like, that really supports the community.
Yeah, you shouldn't see the infrastructure, right?
Yeah.
You should see the services that run over it. Yeah, so what does it says here, what does it all mean, really, right? About the integration. So look, that's just where we start, right? And we started with a big one, right? So we started with Tether, we started with Bitfinex. As we've touched on publicly in other forums and formats, there are many other conversations on the business side with exchanges, with the prop traders, with the market makers that are really the clients of the exchange. So that's kind of like the pull side for the exchange's customer to go to them and say, you guys need to be on layer 2. It's a little bit of a fine art because we're kind of neutral on the exchanges. Like we want them all to be on layer 2. But we do have to say to an exchange, we have to go to exchange A and say, you should really integrate to our network so your customers can move value to one of your competitors, right? Which is essentially what we're doing, right? We're saying, as long as multiple exchanges are connected, then your traders will have, faster, cheaper, frictionless ability to come in and out of positions. And so some exchanges get that, right? The more forward-thinking ones know that the cost, the congestion, the sort of systemic risk to Ethereum being the best layer 1 to build these services is significant. And again, rational actor, just the straight up, the dead money cost of running on layer 1, they just have to do it. So as long as we get 2, 3, and 4 exchanges, and then their market makers and their customers saying, light up all these other tokens and move them all onto layer 2, it's good for everyone, right? It helps with price transparency, it helps with fairness, helps with liquidity in the market, which acts as a shock absorber for everybody. And to Kasima's point, frees up layer 1 to do some of the more esoteric or experimental stuff, or things that really are predicated on having smart contract execution to support their operation. And we just make room for that.
Yeah, I have to give Paulo credit, the CTO of Tether. In our first conversations with him, he totally got it, which was awesome. You know, he took it upon himself to say that like it was his responsibility to provide his customers with optionality when the next Black Thursday happens, right? And I think my sense from talking to him is that he saw that sort of as a rallying cry for himself. That was like, we need to give people the tools to be able to keep the markets liquid during another like mass period of volatility. And you know, Black Thursday was such an intense event for so many of the DeFi projects, right? And so it sort of bubbled all the way down to, well, I don't know if that's the right direction, but it definitely bubbled through the entire ecosystem where you had all these islands of price. And so if the arbitrage is actually really good for maintaining price and keeping equilibrium in the whole system. And when that couldn't happen, I think things got sort of out of whack, and we saw all kinds of weird, very dangerous sort of systemic things propagate through the system. So yeah, I think having more of these things pull transaction, having more layer twos, not even necessarily just us, but like options on PTC, options on other chains, like being able to provide transaction space, bandwidth in the system helps everyone.
Yep.
Rising lifts all boats, right? Stephen says this a lot.
Yeah, yeah. But only if you're in the water, right?
You definitely got to be in water. Yeah.
If you're up and down, it doesn't rain, and
Can't really watch that from shore.
But that incident was like really interesting to me, because I think for the first time, or one of the first time, the community woke up to the whole idea of money Lego, right? It's real. It's all code, and it's going to execute the way that it's designed. But you're not anticipating a lot of these black swan kind of peak events. So to me, it just points out that there's a lot of work in the infrastructure and the fundamentals that we still have to do to make this world work.
And there are plenty of people out there who we're talking to who see that, and we're excited to talk to them and try to push that forward.